Walaikum salam, walaikum salam. Okay, so Ibad, I don't have too many math compiled notes. Whatever it is, I have uploaded them. Okay, you'll find them with the stream. Just say for kinematics. Okay. But so whatever notes I have, whatever important formula sheets and everything, I've uploaded them either on my Instagram or you'll find them in the link of a video description or something. ठीक है. ln in E graph. The thing is, time is short, and this is modulus graphs were one of the most requested graphs, so that's what we're going to be focusing on. I'm really sorry. Yeah, we'll do modulus inequalities also, don't worry. No, ln in E graph is not in linear law. Okay, Jareen Ahmed, chances are I've probably included that question in this that I've compiled, okay? In this document that I've compiled. Okay, so we'll just start in 2 minutes. How's the preparation, by the way? How's your preparation for tomorrow? बेटा I have a video on trigonometric graphs जिसकी मेरे पास वीडियो है उसका it's best कि आप जाके वीडियो से कवर कर लो ठीक है I have a lot of videos on trigonometric graphs ठीक है cover it from there. You're welcome. प्रिडिक्टेड थ्रेशोल्ड बेटा जब प्रिडिक्टेड पेपर नहीं पता तो प्रिडिक्टेड थ्रेशोल्ड कैसे पता हो सकता है थ्रेशोल्ड पहले थोड़ी आता है थ्रेशोल्ड तो बाद में आता है और अगर मैं प्रिडिक्टेड थ्रेशोल्ड बता भी दूँ मुझे एक बात बताओ चलो मैंने प्रिडिक्टेड थ्रेशोल्ड बता दिया हाउ विल दैट मेक एनी डिफरेंस मुझे ये बताओ Yes, of course. Threshold is dependent how people do on the exam. कोई पेपर मार्किंग स्कीम थोड़ी है कि पेपर के साथ थ्रेशोल्ड भी दे दिया पेपर का it's how people do on the exam. Yes, I have recently shared a link on my Instagram and also YouTube post पे where I have shared my add math notes. Okay, they're not of all the topics, but whatever topics they have that I've compiled, I've shared them. Acha, for those of you who are saying that they want to study AS directly with me, well, they can reach out to me on Instagram. But abhi I'll probably won't be able to entertain your query. Registrations will start from July, so you can keep following me on Instagram. You'll find out when the registrations are live. Okay. सर लास्ट मिनट टिप्स वाली वीडियो हाँ बिल्कुल बनाऊंगा इंशाल्लाह बिल्कुल बनाऊंगा सर प्लीज़ से माय नेम दूर फिशा फातिमा इज़ दैट हाउ यू प्रोनाउंस योर नेम सर रिजॉल्व वेलोसिटी का आज तक क्यों नहीं आया कैन इट कम वेल इट्स इम्पॉर्टेंट ओके इट्स पार्ट ऑफ आवर सिलेबस सो अब विल इट कम और नॉट that I can't say, but can it come? Well, if it's part of the syllabus, then of course it can come. AS content, inshallah, I'll upload from next session. Yeah, of course, you can join my classes from anywhere in the world, that's fine. Bangladesh, Indonesia, Malaysia. Surface area of all the shapes that you know, uh, of all the shapes that you know from math, you have to know the area for that. So please share differentiation past papers too. Okay, I will. But I would suggest, Saima, don't wait for me. If you have yearly past papers, you can single out from yearly past papers and then do them. I'm gonna have to see if I have them compiled or not. Sir, do I watch your lectures or do yearly? Well, if you're able to do yearly, then go ahead. You should be doing yearly. Okay, Murshidul Islam, you can, like I said, you can keep following me on Instagram. Whenever the registrations are live, I'll announce on my Instagram. Okay. What to do now? Well, pray for yourself, pray for your friends, classmates, and me while you're at it. I'd like that. Sir, is probably important for paper 2. I can't say that. Every topic is important. Sir, why are you not using the new iPad Pro, the one you unboxed? Well, this one has most of my data. So yeah, I'll probably start using that from the next session. I'm good, alhamdulillah, I'm good. Chale, let's start. Kya khayal hai? Shall we start? Discriminate, beta, discriminate नहीं होता, discriminant होता है. ठीक है, discriminant is b square minus 4ac. Okay guys, no, expected क्या है क्या नहीं है ये मैं नहीं बता सकता. ठीक है, I really can't say that. Any tips for attempting tomorrow? Yeah, that I can say. Just be mindful of your work, check as you go along, use your calculator. I'm gonna make a video. I am gonna make a video where I'm gonna show you how many features you can use of your calculator. I'll make it by tonight, inshallah. ठीक है, मतलब बना दिया, upload करनी है. ठीक है, I'll upload it by tonight. Watch that, and yeah, that should be good enough. Okay, चलें, let's start. So I'm gonna share my screen with you guys. बेटा क्या expected है क्या नहीं है इसके बारे में मैं कुछ नहीं कह सकता. ठीक है, I could be completely wrong, I could be completely right. That means it's a gamble, and I don't like doing that. Okay. अच्छा. So as you must have guessed from the title that what we're doing today is basically. अच्छा बेटा, no spamming. If anyone spams, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to hide you. Okay, doesn't matter how important your question is, no need to spam. Okay, acha. So here's a question from May-June 2021, paper 12. Okay, it says here, on the axis sketch the graph of y is equals to 4 minus 3x. Okay, stating the intercepts with the coordinate axes. Acha. So how do we do this question? Here's how we do it. So whenever you have to make a linear modulus graph, okay, what did I say? Whenever you have to make a linear modulus graph, now pay close attention to it, and if you've just joined and are wondering कि मैंने क्या explain किया, please rewind the stream and figure it out. ठीक है, अच्छा, okay. So here's how this works. Whenever you have to make a linear modulus graph, so there are 3 steps to it. Step number 1 is, so here's step number 1. Okay, step number 1 is that you find the vertex. Okay, and how do you find the vertex? Whatever is inside the absolute function, you set that equal to 0. So 4 minus 3x is equals to 0, which means 4 is equals to 3x, x is equals to 4 upon 3. Okay, now that you have your x coordinate of the vertex, the next thing you need to do is think of this as step 1 part A. Now step 1 part B is that you find the y coordinate of the vertex. Okay, how do you find the y coordinate of the vertex? Okay, you plug the x value back into the equation. Okay, and that most of the time turns out to be 0, but the only time it's not going to turn out to be 0 is when you have something outside the modulus also. Okay, so 4 minus 3 and 3 gets cancelled out. 4 minus 4 is 0, so that means y is equals to 0. Okay, what do you have now? You basically have your vertex point, okay? And what do we mean by the vertex point? We mean that you have, okay, so let's say here's 1, here's 2. 4 upon 3 means 1.33 something, okay? And y coordinate 0, that means it's going to be somewhere over here. Now make sure to read the question carefully. The question over here is saying that what do you need to show? You need to show the intercepts with the coordinate axis. So that means with the x-axis and with the y-axis. And guys, please make sure to like the stream. I'll appreciate that. Okay, next thing you want to do is you want to make a table. Okay, what do you want to do? You want to make a table. And once you've made the table, so what do? We take two values that are greater than the x coordinate of the vertex and two values that are lesser than the y coordinate of the vertex. Sir, do you love your YouTube family? Of course I love my YouTube family. Why not? Is that even a question? Of course I do. Okay, so basically remember that your vertex point was 4 over 3. Okay, so what's greater than 4 over 3? Well, 2 is greater than 4 over 3. And what's greater than 2? 3. So these are the 2 points that I'm going to take right after the vertex. Okay, and I'm going to take 2 points that are right behind the vertex. Okay, so that means I'm going to take 1 and 0. So, and where exactly am I going to plug in these values of x? I'm going to plug them in absolute of 4 minus 3x. Okay, so let's plug in 0 in place of x. So 3 times 0 is 0. So what's 4 minus 0? 4 minus 0 is 0. 4 minus 0 is 4, sorry. Okay, see, this is what happens when you don't get enough sleep. Okay, so which is why it's important for you guys to get enough sleep for tomorrow. Okay, now let's plug in 1. Okay, so 3 times 1 is 3, and what's 4 minus 3? That's 1. So that means at 0, so here's 1, here's 2, here's 3, here's 4. So when we plugged in 0, what did we get? We got 4. And when we plugged in 1, what did we get? We got 1. Okay, acha. Here let's plug in values that are greater than the vertex. Okay, so let's plug in, let's say 2. So 2 times 3 is 6, and 4 minus 6 is minus 2, which when you absolute, what do you get? You get positive 2. Okay, and then let's plug in 3 in place of x. So 3 times 3 is 9. 4 minus 9 is going to be minus 5, which then you absolute is going to be positive 5. So that means at 2, what did we get? At 2, we got 2. Okay, and what did we get when we plugged in 3? When we plugged in 3, we got 5. Okay, so try and make sure that your values are spaced out equally, because that's going to make it easier for you to plot them. Okay, if they're not spaced out equally, since I really can't measure my values, so my graph is not going to be as good as I would like. Okay, which is why, like I said, I'll recommend you guys to make sure that your values are spaced out equally. Okay, so 2 per 2 and 3 per turned out to be 5. So somewhere over here. Okay, now we're going to join them. So here's one part, okay, and here is the other part. Okay, this point is not on the line, but not because there's something wrong with my values. It's just that there's something wrong with the scale that I've taken. Acha, what is a vertex? Okay, vertex is basically the so why do we call this vertex? Is because vertex is basically where the two lines meet. Okay, this is basically, no, I would not at all recommend that you do this with your calculator. Okay, so basically, like I said, there are 3 to 4 steps through which you can make any absolute graph. Okay, now what are those steps? I'm gonna make you guys write them down separately. Okay, so let's write them down on a separate piece of paper. Okay, now let's say you have to plug in y is equals to x, you have to draw y equals to absolute of x minus 3 plus 1. Okay, now do bear in mind that any linear absolute graph is going to be either something like this, okay, or it's going to be something like this. Okay, it's going to be either like a V, like a normal V, or it's going to be like a ulta V. Okay. Okay, so what are the steps? The first step is step 1, part A, that you find the vertex, okay, x comma y. So in part A, we find the x coordinate of the vertex. How? By taking whatever it is that we have inside the absolute, which is x minus 3, okay, x minus 3, and setting it equal to 0. So whatever you have inside the absolute, x minus 3, you set that equal to 0. Let me just write it again. Okay, so sorry about that. X minus 3 is equals to 0, that means x is equals to 3. In part B, what you do is you plug it back into the equation. Okay, so y is equals to absolute of x minus 3 plus 1. So if you plug in 3 back into the equation, 3 minus 3 absolute plus 1, so that means y is equals to 1. Sorry, y is equals to 0 plus 1, which is equal to 1. So what are your coordinates for the vertex? Your coordinates for the vertex are 3, 1. Okay, then the next thing you want to do is, now basically what have you figured out so far? This is what you figured out. So far you figured out that your graph is basically going to have a point 1, 2, 3 and 1. Okay, now the next thing you want to do is you want to plug in the values that are greater than your x coordinate of the vertex and lesser than your x coordinate of the vertex. Although you can do away with 2 values also, because you just have to make a straight line, but it's a good habit to plug in to find out at least 3 values, okay, including the vertex. So here's how this works. Here's x, here's y. 1, oopsie, 2, 3 and 4. Okay, now somewhere over here is our vertex with x is equals to 3, so that means I'm going to plug in 4 and 5 and I'm going to plug in 3 and 2 to find out the other points. Okay, shouldn't you draw a curve? No, we're not going to draw a curve. Okay, because we're not going to draw a curve is because the reason why we're not going to draw a curve is because you have a linear equation. Okay, you have a linear equation. Okay, so let's plug in 4, and remember, where are we plugging in these values? We are plugging in these values in this equation. Y is equals to absolute of x minus 3 plus 1. Okay, this is where we are plugging in all these values. Okay, so I hope you guys know where the absolute function in your calculator is. If you don't, now is a good time to find out. Okay, so I'm going to one by one plug in all the values. So 4 minus 3 plus 1 gives me 2. Okay, let's plug in 5. So 5 minus 3 plus 1 gives me 3. Let's plug in 2. 2 minus 3 gives us 2 again. Let's plug in 3. 3 gives us 1. Okay. Actually, I just realized that we had to plug in 2 and 1 because we already know that the x coordinate of the vertex is 3. Okay, so at 2 we get 2 and at 1 we get 3. Okay, what's next is that you mark these points. At 4 it's 2, at 5 it's 3. Okay, at 2 it's also 2, at 1 it's going to be 3 again. Okay, so I don't know why I've written minus 1. Let me just fix that real quick. Okay, now you have your absolute graph ready, and that's it. Okay, now this is how, these are basically the steps through which you find out, you basically plug in. This is step number 2, by the way. You basically make a absolute graph. Okay, beta, if you're asking what the x-axis is, then you shouldn't be here. Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to hide you. Okay, so that's that. Acha, next thing is solving modulus inequalities. Okay, now how do you solve modulus inequalities? Now there are 2 ways. Okay, there are 2 ways through which you can find out you can solve modulus inequalities. Okay, how is that? Here's how you do it. Okay, and in both of the methods you have to be extremely careful. Make a habit of plugging in your answer, plugging in your value, and then checking your answer. Okay, yeah, one method is that you square both sides. Okay, so one method is that you square both sides. Okay, so you have 4 minus 3x, the whole thing square is greater than or equal to 7 square. Okay, I wouldn't suggest that you draw and then reflect. Okay, I would suggest that for that, I mean, those kind of graphs are better when you're making a quadratic modulus graph and when you're making a cubic modulus graph. Sir, why isn't it x minus 3? Rabi, I'm not sure I understand what you're trying to say. Acha, calculator mein absolute function beta, it depends what calculator you have. If you have one of these, the one that I have, okay, so wherever you see the bracket open, okay, wherever you see the bracket open button, okay, that's where it's going to be. Okay, now I'm squaring both sides. Okay, this is going to be 16 minus 24x plus 9x square is greater than or equal to 49. ठीक है. So 9x square minus 24x plus 16 minus 49. 16 minus 49 is equals to minus 33. Now before you do, although in this, since calculator is allowed, you can use the quadratic formula, and you can also basically use the feature of your calculator. Okay, so let's take 3 common. So you have 3x square minus 8x minus 11 is greater than or equal to 0. Okay, I've just divided the whole equation by 3. Now if you solve this equation, so just to save some time, I'm going to use my calculator and solve this equation. Okay, so you have 3 minus 8 minus 11. Okay, so if you solve this, you get x is equals to 11 upon 3, or you get x is equals to minus 1. Okay, now don't get carried away and think this is your answer. 11 upon 3 is going to be 3 point something, and minus 1 is basically minus 1. Okay, and this is the curve that you're looking at. Now you want the region that is greater than or equal to 0. That means you want this part of the curve and this part of the curve. Okay, so these two parts of the curve will be obtained when x is greater than or equal to 11 upon 3, or when x is lesser than or equal to minus 1. Okay, now when you have these answers, it's always a good idea to check your answer. Okay, why is it a good idea to check your answer? Because sometimes, only sometimes, both the answers are not valid. Okay, instead of whole square, can we solve? Yes, that's the next method, and I'm going to explain that. That's the reason why I've drawn this line over here. Okay, so I'll explain that method also. Okay, so remember, our final solution is that x is greater than or equal to 11 upon 3, or x is lesser than or equal to minus 1. Okay, acha. 11 upon 3 is basically 3 point something. Okay, so let's plug in x equals to 4. Okay, so 4 minus 3 times 4 in the absolute, and let's see if it's greater than or equal to 7. So what happens is 3 into 4 is 12. 4 minus 12 is minus 8, the absolute of which is going to be 8. So 8 is greater than or equal to 7. Alright, so far so good. Now let's plug in a value that is less than minus 1. Let's plug in 2. So x is equals to 2. So 4 minus 3 times 2, okay, is greater than or equal to 7. Let's plug in minus 2 actually. X is lesser than or equal to, so that's minus 2. Okay, so 4 plus 6 absolute is greater than or equal to 7. So 10, yes, 10 is definitely greater than or equal to 7. That means both our answers are absolutely correct. Okay, acha. Ab the other method. Okay, this was one method. Now let's look into the other method. The other method is, the easier method is 4 minus 3x is going to be greater than or equal to 7. Okay, greater than the greater value or greater than the positive value, or 4 minus 3x is going to be lesser than or equal to minus 7. Okay, what if you have absolute on both sides? Then it's best that you square both sides. Okay, then it's best that you square both sides. Okay. Okay, so let's work this out. So for this, it's going to be 4 minus 7 is greater than or equal to 3x. Let's write this nicely. So 3x is lesser than or equal to minus 3, which means x is lesser than or equal to minus 1. Okay, and then 4 plus 7 is lesser than or equal to 3x, which means that 3x is greater than or equal to 11, which means that x is greater than or equal to 11 upon 3. Okay, so this is the other method, method 2, and this was method number 1. Now it's up to you guys whatever method you want to use, but remember, when you have absolute on both sides, then it's best that you square both sides. Okay, okay, moving on. Now before we do cubic curves, let's just do let's do a couple of examples of absolute graphs before we move on to cubic curves. Okay, kya khayal hai? What do you guys think? Okay, let's do this. This is another question. Yeah, it's better to use method 2. Okay, I agree with that. But when you have absolute on both sides, then my suggestion would be to square both sides. Okay, that's your safest bet. Okay, this is a question from October-November 2018, paper 12. Okay. Now, what is the first thing that we're going to do, and tell me how we're going to do it? Question for you guys. find vertex. Okay, how are we going to do that? 6 minus 3x equals to 0. Okay, which means that x is equals to 2. Okay, now we have a vertex that x is equals to 2. Okay, acha. Then what is the next thing that we're going to do? The next thing that we're going to do is that we are going to plug 2 back into the equation. That's going to give us 0. Okay, so because you don't have anything outside the modulus, okay, so your y coordinate will always be equal to 0, given that you don't have anything outside the modulus. Okay, so if you even if you were to plug it back in, I'll just do it for the sake of it. Okay, y is going to be equal to 0. So this is basically what? This is basically your vertex. Okay, this is the point where the graph will turn, sort of. Okay, you can say that. Acha, what's next? Next is that we're going to plug in values greater than 2, a couple of values greater than 2, and a couple of values less than 2. Okay, so let's do that over here. Let's do that over here. Okay, look, I'm not saying that my method is the best method, but this is the method that I've always preferred, and this is the method that I always teach. If you've learned from some other teacher and if you've learned some other method, okay, you can stick to that method, no worries. Okay, so let's plug in 3. Remember where we're plugging them? We're plugging them in y is equals to 6 minus 3x. Okay, absolute. So if I plug in 3, what happens? 3 times 3 is 9. 6 minus 9 is minus 3, the absolute of which is going to be 3. Okay. If you plug in 4, so 3 times 4 is 12, 6 minus 12 is, let's not plug in 2, let's plug in 1. So if you plug in 1, so 6 minus 3 is straight away going to be equal to 3. If you plug in 0, so 0 is going to be 6 again. Okay. Acha. Ab, let's mark these points 3, 3, so that means it's going to be over here. Okay, 4, 6, so that's going to be over here. 1, 3, so that's going to be over here. 0, 6, so that's going to be over here. Okay, and there you go, that's it. You have successfully drawn your absolute graph. Okay, buffering, I don't know where that is. Okay, is it fine now or is it still glitchy? Okay, great. ठीक है. Acha, next part is fairly simple. You just have to solve this. ठीक है. So how exactly are we going to solve this? Well, we're going to solve it. It's a very simple method. We're going to say 6 minus 3x is equals to 2, or 6 minus 3x is equals to minus 2. Okay. Let's see what we have now. So 6 minus 2 is equals to 3x. Okay. That means 3x is equals to 4, x is equals to 4 upon 3. Okay. Or 8 is equals to 3x, which means 3x is equals to 8, which means x is equals to 8 upon 3. Okay, so that's the answer for part 2. Now in part 3, if you notice, okay, is my voice glitching? Is that true? For part 3, where it says hence find, okay, so whenever the question says hence find, that means it's connected to part 2. Okay. Okay, so now you know what you can do? You can actually use your graph to work this out. How exactly? You can use your graph. So basically, the line that we're going to draw, so this is kind of connected with math also. The line that you're going to draw is basically the line y is equals to 2. Okay, that means you're going to draw a horizontal line at 2. Okay. Now, through your solution of part 2, you know exactly where the line and the modulus graphs meet. Okay, so one of them is 4 upon 3 and the other is 8 upon 3. Okay. Now, here's what I want you guys to tell me. Okay, I want you guys to look at the question very carefully. Okay, I'm going to zoom out so you have a full view of it. Okay, now when it says Hence, find the values of absolute of 6 minus 3x is greater than 2. So what exactly do you want? Do you want the range where the absolute function is above the line, or do you want the range where the absolute function is below the line? Yes, we want, no, not below, we want the absolute graph to be above. Why? How do we know that? Because you can see that 6 minus 3x is the absolute function, and we want our graph to be above the horizontal line. Okay, so I'll just write it over here that you want this to be above y is equals to 2. Okay, so अब एक काम करते हैं, let's highlight the part where our absolute graph is above. So this is one region, okay, and this is another region. Okay, so now can you guys tell me what the final answer will be? Can you tell me the range? So if this value is 8 upon 3, so what is x going to be over here? Is it going to be greater than 8 upon 3 or lesser than 8 upon 3? What do you think? Very good, Muhammad Fawzanuddin, that's correct. Okay, so since if you want this part and this part is on the right side of this value, that means it's going to be x is greater than 8 upon 3. Okay, so that's one solution, x is greater than 8 upon 3. Or what about the other one? What about this one, boys and girls? For this, it's going to be less than. Okay, for this, because it's on the left side, that means it's going to be less than. Or x is less than 4 upon 3. Okay, so don't just end up memorizing the rules. Okay, always look at your graph and then answer. Okay. Okay, let's do one more question of absolute. Okay, and that should be enough. I mean, not enough for the stream. Okay, but enough for linear absolute graphs. Okay. Okay, so this is a question from October-November 2021, paper 2, variant 3. Sir, कोई absolute on both sides की example करवा दें with an integer outside, absolute on one side. ठीक है, अगर कोई आया तो करवा लेंगे. Okay, like I said, no spamming. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to hide you. Okay. Okay. So it says on the graphs, on the axes, draw the graphs of y is equals to absolute of x minus 5 and y is equals to 6 minus absolute of 2x minus 7. Okay. So how are we going to do that? Let's see. So x minus 5 shouldn't be that difficult. Okay, this is 4 marks. Okay. So y is equals to x minus 5. Okay. So x minus 5. सबसे पहले let's do x minus 5 equals to 0. That means x is equals to 5 and we know y is going to be equal to 0. Okay. So we have 5 over here. Now the next part, I'm not going to make a table. Okay, the table was for you guys to understand what's going on. Over here, I'm just going to do it directly. Okay. Okay, so we're going to plug in 6. So 6 minus 5 is 1. We're going to plug in 7. 7 minus 5 is 2. Okay, let's plug in 4. 4 minus 5 is going to be minus 1. The absolute of which is going to be 1. Let's plug in 3. 3 minus 5 is minus 2. The absolute of which is going to be 2. Okay, so let's make this graph first before we move on to the next one. Okay. Oh, you're right. You're right. Scale. You're right. You're right. You're right. I just realized that. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. 4 पे क्या आ रहा है? 4 पे 1 आ रहा है. ठीक है. ठीक है. Okay. तो एक काम करते हैं. Let's plug in 7. 7 पे it's 2. ठीक है. And I think that's it. Let's plug in 3. So 3 minus 5, that's minus 2 and that's by 2. Okay, thank you whoever pointed out. That saved me a lot of time. Okay, so there you go. And there you go. Okay, so अभी थोड़ी देर पहले कोई tip मांग रहा था ना कि tips देते हैं कल के लिए. Well, here's another tip. Make sure that you look at the scale carefully. ठीक है. अच्छा जी. Now, here is another question, okay, which says y is equals to 6 minus 2x minus 7. Okay. Past paper link under your other videos are not working. Is that Is that correct? जो स्ट्रीम एक्चुअली अचानक से ड्रॉपबॉक्स पे कुछ मसला हो गया, आई लुक्ड इट अप ऑनलाइन, तो वो एक उसमें कोई इशू आ गया, तो मुझे बताना कौन सा नहीं चल रहा, I'll share it again. Okay. Next thing is for this one you have to be slightly careful. 2x minus 7 is equals to 0, so x is going to be equal to 7 upon 2 or 3.5, but when you plug in the value back into the equation, you're going to get y is equals to 6. Okay, so 3.5 and y is 6, so that means that's going to be somewhere over here. Okay, in between 3 and 4, this is 3.5 and 6 is going to be over here. Okay, sir, can't we just extend of substitute all values? Yeah, you can do that, but take two values and then extend them. Okay, acha. Let's plug in a value that's greater than 3. Let's plug in 4. Okay, so I'm gonna have this calculator, this equation in my calculator, so I don't have to do it mentally. Okay, so 2 bracket, and then in place of x, let's plug in 4. So in place of x, if I plug in 4, I get 5. Okay, 5 is going to be in between 4 and 6. If I plug in 5, I get 3. So if I plug in 5, I get 3. And if I plug in 6, I get 1. Okay, that's unnecessary, but let's plug in values before the vertex. So let's plug in 3. So if I plug in 3, I get 5 again. Okay, if I plug in 2, I get 3 again. So at 2, it's 3 again. Okay, and that's it. Next thing you want to do is you want to join them. Okay, let's make this with the color red. And there you go. That's it. Done. Okay, so how to solve polynomials with calculator. Beta, please keep your question there, other than what we're doing right now, to a minimum, so we can focus on what we're doing right now. Okay, I'll appreciate that. Okay, can we put modulus in a calculator? Yeah, you can. Of course you can. Okay, can someone please tell Amir how to put modulus in a calculator? If you have the one that I have, so it's shift and then press the bracket open key. Okay, if you have one of these. Okay, now अब मुझे कोई इसका solution बताएगा? So when it says x minus 5 is greater than 6 minus absolute of 2x minus 7. So which, okay, are we back?